And we're live! Welcome, everybody. Once again, I'm Kent Shawn, and I'm here with some friends, Bethany Votaw, Candace Teague, Victoria Wren, and Hannah Palmer, all talented writers. And I'm super excited to talk to them about A Season of Darkness. Here's this.
Yeah. I feel like I hear someone's got it playing in the background.
That was me this time. Okay.
Nice.
All right. So, what are we talking about today in Anthology? A bunch of authors got together, became friends, and kind of started hooking up and talking on Discord and Instagram chat and on YouTube. And next thing you know, some crazy lady named Bethany Votaw decided she was going to corral all these humans together and create a short story anthology. And Bethany's kind of the queen of the short story around these parts. And she kind of brought everybody together. And next thing you know, we had a group called the Twisted 10. Why? Because there generally is something wrong with all of us. And because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of us. So let me go around and let these amazing authors introduce themselves and say what they've got going on. Bethany Votaw, what's up?
Hi. Hello. Excited to have this book out in the wild. Follow me on my social media. Just look up my name and stuff. But I have 2 books coming out this year. One is a short story collection featuring only my stories. So, if you really want to get a little peek into my mind, I think most of you, except for Candace, has read it. I don't know if Hannah has. I've lost count.
I read a bit.
Yeah. So it's exciting. And then in November, I have a book coming out called Tracker. So that's what's been going on for me. And I'm going to pass the torch to Candace.
Hi,
everybody. I'm really excited to be here, and it's really exciting that our book is finally, out there on Amazon. I am mostly learning illustration. I used to do realism, and that's mostly what I'm working on right now because I went to illustrate my own books. And I do have some things that I'm working on currently, but I don't want to give too much away right now. But yeah, that's what I'm doing right now is learning illustration. Yeah. Okay, Victoria or Hannah.
Awesome. Victoria.
Oh, me. I'll go next. So I'm Victoria. Hello, thank you for having me on, and I'm really, really excited that the book is finally out. It's been so lovely to work with everybody and get to know everyone, and there are some really amazing stories in the collection. Me personally, I am the author of the Wild Spirit young adult series. I'll try and get all that out. The first book is out, The Curse of Wynne Adler, and the second book hopefully will be out summertime this year, maybe with the third at the end of the year. Who knows? We shall see. Fingers crossed. And I'm passing to Hannah.
Hey, hello. I'm Hannah. I wrote number 47, which has been out for some time now. I'm also planning to publish definitely once, possibly twice this year. So I'll have my horror coming out in August and potentially another one in October, depending on how fast I can get on it.
Awesome. By the way, just by way of advertising for my friends, I've had the pleasure of reading the stuff Bethany has coming out, reading Victoria's work, and reading Hannah's book. And I got to tell you, I'm excited about the next year because I can't wait to read this stuff. Y'all got to send it to me first. If you don't let me beta read for you, we're going to have a problem. I'll come to your house. Not quite wrong, because you're really far away.
Really, really far.
Okay. So, Bethany, can you kind of give me a little background on this? What exactly were you doing that you thought you wanted to create a ginormous amount of ass pain for yourself and wrangle 10 cats into getting an anthology together? You're like, hey, I've got a job and a life, and I would just like to try to ruin that with a side project. Tell us about it.
It wasn't me. We were just chatting on Discord about some of our friends are writing epic fantasies, giant books, and they were kind of feeling discouraged because they're like, my book's not going to see the light of publication for years. But they were talking about how they had some weird short stories that it'd be fun to put in a book. And we were kind of all talking about like, oh yeah, I have a weird short story. It doesn't really fit anywhere, but it's good. Or like, I have a couple of weird ideas and whatnot. And so I was like, well, I just kind of put it out in the group, and I was like, would we want to just compile our weird outlying stories together and put it in a book. And 9 other people said, yes, let's do it. So that's what we did. We came up with a theme, kind of created a little contract and schedule, and stuck with it mostly. There were a lot of outstanding circumstances beyond our control. You know, the pandemic kind of threw a wrench into how often we could get proof copies and all of that jazz. But we did everything in-house. Emily did the cover. I did the formatting. We all edited each other's stuff. And yeah, it's been fun. And that's how it kind of came to be.
So did anybody like have second, when the word of this started flying around, you're like, hey, you could get a story in here. Like what made you guys want to jump on board? Like, why did you think this was a good thing to do?
For me, sorry, Hannah. Was you going to? I'll say for me, it was just the opportunity to work with other people and publishing something together. I think that's always nice to kind of experience it as a group than just being on your own. And everyone just seems so nice. So that was why I did it.
So I gotta say that honestly, I said yes right away, and then I immediately went. Because I've already, I'd already written a novel that year and another, couple of 10,000 word short stories. And I was like, do I want to write another one? And then the reason I kind of decided to do it is because of the theme. So everybody was kind of coming up. Thank you for buying the book, Claire. Appreciate that. And I wanted to write a traditional scary story and then find a way to put a twist on it. So I've never written a monster, a vampire, a werewolf, a mummy. One of the big traditional, a Frankenstein. I've never done that. And I thought, well, here's an opportunity to try something. And I also had just recently done something with Bethany where she had me try writing in first person present tense. So I wanted to try to do that because I hate it with all my heart. And so I thought a challenge. So I thought I'd try a new take on a werewolf story. And it was actually, I almost backed out right after I agreed to do it because I've such a rough publication schedule coming up this year, and I was really working hard. I have 4 books that have to be finished in 2021. So, but I ended up doing it, and I had fun writing the story, and now I really like the story, which kind of surprised me because it was an experiment. It was a straight up experiment. So for me, it was the challenge, which is what to me writing short stories is all about. I look for challenges. I try to write things that are difficult or maybe even uncomfortable when I do shorts, because that's your chance to do that stuff, to see if you can. Like I wouldn't commit to writing, I just finished an 80,000 word novel a couple of days ago. I wouldn't commit to 80,000 words of an experiment. That's a lot of time and a lot of pain to commit. How about you, Hannah? Why did you join the Twisted Tale?
Kind of a similar reason, really. I think we had the UK had been in lockdown for however long, and it felt, I put this in my video, it felt like a lot of things that I did in my spare time, I obviously lost control of. I used to do a lot of stuff with a local writing group in my area. That kind of obviously disappeared. And then this opportunity came up, and I was like, this is great. This is an opportunity to kind of explore some new avenues and make some new friends. And yeah, that's why I did it. But I definitely did a very similar thing to you. I was like, I've got in my head, I was like, I want to do this, this, and this. And does this really fit in? No, not really. But I'm going to say yes to it anyway.
Well, honestly, another cherry on top for me was getting critiques from different writers. And I think it's important to get critiques from writers at different levels, because like everybody's on a different stage of how many, things they've written. Hannah's published, Victoria's published, I've written a couple million words of fiction, probably most of them are horrible, but like you get people of all different levels and stages and different vantage points from where they are in their journey that can look at what you're doing. And it doesn't mean that you take everybody's advice, but we all put everything up where for everybody else could see it and said, have a look, what do you think? Some people just won't like your stuff because it's not their style, which is fine. But I actually wrote 2 stories for the anthology, one that didn't make it in because I think it's a novel. But it had problems, had a lot of problems, and people spotted them for me, and I appreciated that. Having solid critique partners it just makes you so much better. It's unbelievable. Have you guys ever found it hard to find a critique partner that'll tell you they didn't like something? Like, it's all great. Everything. That didn't help at all.
It took some time. I think that was one thing that was really interesting, though, is because to answer one of the questions we got, which was, how did you stay organized? We used a Google Drive, and we had dates for like first draft of your story, put it in this folder. And then we just went through and we read and commented and made notes on each story. And I think it was Hannah and I going back and forth on the story that you wrote, Kent, that didn't make it in. And we were just like loving the story. And then kind of at the end, we're like, yeah, this is an outlier. It's not going to work. But we were like loving it the whole time. And that's just kind of what you got to do, because as a whole, we wanted the stories to meld and fit together. It's an eclectic mix, but it kind of fits in this box we created. It's a big box, but still. And we wanted it to be the best that it could be. And so I found it like so much fun reading all of the stories and getting to see the styles and of each different author and what they did with the prompt, which was, we were just like dark, creepy, and it was just really fun and unique. But did any of you guys struggle with either one, taking the feedback or two, giving feedback?
I don't have any. Like,
No.
if I think it's good feedback, I take it. If I think it's bad, it just bounces off of me like it doesn't even exist. So one of the things I do, and you guys can probably, like, when I give feedback, I do it the same way I make notes to myself. So I kind of joke around a little bit. I'm like, I remember one person did something like they twisted around at the waist. I'm like, can you do that? I'm going to try it. I'm going to stand up right now. I'm going to plant my feet. And I'm going to twist myself around at the waist. Nah, you can't do that. That's what I do to myself. And at one point I was commenting on somebody's things. And I'm like, maybe I should be a little bit more like, not a jerk. But that's how I do it. I promise. That's how my notes in the margin look to me on my first read.
You give really good feedback, though, and it really helped me. I think I had trouble mostly giving feedback just because I consider myself as a newer writer, and I knew that I had a lot to learn. So that's why I joined, is because I wanted the experience and I wanted to get to know better writers, and I needed help,
Well, Candace,
but,
you almost wrote a novella. I mean, that's a complex story that you tried to pull off. And this is from the Dork that's written a 250,000 word book. I'm telling you right now, you went after it. You didn't come in like, oh, I'm going to tell a little set piece that happens in a room between two people. You're like, let's do a sweeping science fiction epic that requires research, multiple characters, like you just jumped in with both feet and your hair on fire.
But on the flip side, Candace, she like texted me like a couple of weeks or days before like the final, like, okay, all stories have to be finished and done. And she's like, hey, I have a piece of flash fiction. Do you think it would fit? And I was like, we'll see. Like, we don't have time for everyone to kind of go through it and read it and critique it. And I read it and I was like, I'm just gonna do a proofread on this because it was awesome. So it's really funny how you had two very extremes of storytelling. You had amazing flash fiction, and then you had this giant complex story that we really had to kind of narrow down and tweak a little bit. I just thought that was it was so funny to me because it was like two very different sides.
I was genuinely concerned when I started reading her story. I'm like, oh, this is huge. Like, it affects the whole earth. Like, this is not a little story. I wrote a story about some dudes in a cabin in the woods. Like, you're going off. That's an interesting difference, though. Like, there are way different lengths and kind of like levels of story arc in the collection. Like, some people, like Danny Ranger, wrote what feels like a piece of a very big fantasy novel. And then we had some kind of like more traditional ghost stories like Victoria Wren, Knock Knock. And so it was really interesting to me, like, because it was such a wide array of choices, you got a wide array of stories.
I think there's something in there for everybody.
Yeah.
As long as you're as weird as
well, okay, that kind of leads into this next question that I got, and it says, why are you all creepy? So let's tackle that.
Candace, you first.
Why are we all
you.
creepy?
I want to know why you're creepy. Just you. Go.
I'm creepy because I live like a vampire. I don't go outside. I don't talk to anybody. I don't know. It's a way of life as a writer.
I think maybe we can interpret it of like what inspired these stories, because there's some dark, twisted tales. And part of the tagline we created was like, sometimes reality is more horrific than fiction, because we have a couple of stories that are, you could consider classic fiction. There's no monsters, there's no demons or ghosts coming out to get you. It's just a real life story, and they're eerie and dark. And I think we can interpret the "why are you all creepy" as what inspired some of your stories.
I would actually like to know for Hannah, with the she basically wrote her story is essentially a chase scene. And I would like to know what inspired that for you, Hannah.
I have no idea.
That was your first flash fiction too.
That was my first flash, yeah. I honestly don't know how that came about. I just kind of, I don't know. Just appeared. The other one has like a real like story behind it, but the flash has nothing.
Wait, so I'm trying to remember. Wasn't your first draft of that flash fiction in second person?
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting and brave, but oh my goodness, it took me a minute.
What a horrible thing to do.
I mean, I just thought it was interesting. It's just there. It's funny how our stories evolved.
Yeah, yeah. There's a reason generally people don't write in second person.
Yeah, because it makes you feel crazy.
It's horrible. I was like, either this is genius or it's absolute trash. Oh, I know, it's trash.
I'm curious though, Victoria, what inspired your scary stories? Because both of yours were very different, but it definitely had your voice, especially since I've read your stuff at this point. And I think your story opens the collection Knock Knock. So I kind of want to hone in on that. What inspired that story?
Actually, it's a true story. It's partly a true story, which is really weird. And also feeds into the why am I so creepy, because my mum is really creepy and she's also quite mean. And this was something that I grew up with. This story is something that she used to tell me. That was an event that happened in her life when she was about 11 years old. I won't go into spoilers, obviously. And this, about 70% of it, obviously she had a much better ending than the main character in this story, but this happened to her. And I was kind of thinking of something to write for, it was originally for Kent's competition. And I thought I really wanted to write a traditional ghost story. And I just came back to this because it was so, to me as a kid, listening to that, and she to say this happened to her for about 6 months, this event happened to her. And no one could understand what was going on, no one could hear it. And it was just her, and she felt like she was going insane. And then in real life, my grandparents did eventually hear what was going on. But what was I going to say? But it was just, I remember sort of listening to her, and what she used to say was it was the waiting of the build up to the event happening. It wasn't actually the event happening. It was more like laying there waiting for it to start. And I used to just think that was terrifying. And I thought, well, I'll just write about that, then obviously I changed it completely at the end because it's, you know. And then my husband read it and he said, "What's wrong with you? Why would you write that?" About a little girl. And I was like, maybe that's why I'm creepy, because I think it's not. I think it's just I like scaring my children, which is weird. I'm really mean as well. I quite like winding them up. Not that I would let them read this. No way. But there you go. That's what inspired me for this one. So, but the second story is in no way inspired by anything like that. So nothing to do there at all. They are very different.
That's a big point of contention in my house because my daughter wants to read my stuff so bad. And I have things written she can read, but the stuff that is coming out into the world and that she's hearing us talk about all the time, she's like, "Can I read it?" I'm like, no.
No, definitely not.
So
But I like winding my kids up.
I actually have a question for somebody that they got the book. Apparently, it was available the other day, right?
Yeah, it got published. Like, time zones are weird, so it was like available in Australia or the UK earlier than it was here. Don't ask me to do math. Okay, we did the best we could.
Well, a young lady, oddly enough, named Candace, asked me a question, and her question was, when coming up with an idea as a group, did everybody share their ideas to make sure they were on theme first, or did you just start writing?
I think we did share them first, didn't we? I think we kind of spitballed a bit and made sure they were kind of roughly in the right ballpark. And then we just kind of went off on our own for a couple of months and then came back.
Yep.
And started reading them.
Yeah.
I don't remember asking anybody anything.
No, you just said, I got a classic idea, and we're like, go for it. But
Yeah.
I remember I was like, oh, I have like a really creepy, like, ghost ocean lighthouse story, which didn't make it in because it did not work. So that also goes to show that you can have great ideas and people will back it, and it just doesn't work.
Okay. Do you think working on these short stories helped you with other bigger projects? I'm going to answer this one first. Yes, always. If you ever hanging out with me, you know that I think that short stories are critical for novelists. I think that they let us get from the beginning to the end, create an arc, create characters, create drama, tension, come to a climax, and then resolve it, that's writing. That's telling stories. But it doesn't take up months and months and months, and we get to do it over and over again. It's an iterative process. I often liken it to, I'm a little bit of a gym rat, so I think of it like lifting weights. So in order to be strong going like this, I have to go like this over and over again. And it's the same thing. If you want to be good at telling stories, you should tell them over and over again and come to a really deep understanding of what they are and what makes them work and what makes them tick. I just feel like a lot of beginning writers have an issue where they want to write their first book and they want it to be this big, awesome thing, but the odds are against it. So honestly, what I would do if I could start my career over again writing, I would start by writing lots and lots of short things. I would probably take a year or 2 years and try to write 300 short stories and just not stop and refine my craft by using those repetitions, if you will, to improve. And you can get quick feedback, because if I say, hey, Bethany, what's up? I want you to alpha recharge for me. You're like, cool. It's 100,000 words. So I'm just going to need you to give up 8 hours for me to read this thing. So I think there's a lot of advantages to it. Quick turnaround for feedback. You're getting from the beginning to the end, and you're just getting good. And you can learn a lot about what works in a story and what doesn't without throwing away 3 months of your life.
Definitely.
I like it when everybody agrees with me.
It's true.
Okay, so you can clap when I'm done.
I think part of this whole thing is like with short stories, you can fail, and it's funny. It's comical. Like I had like that lighthouse story where I was like, there's something there. It's not working. This is not working. But it was just an interesting, I had to try it thing. And it was an afternoon of my life. I don't think I would be as candid about, oh no, this failed, if it was 100,000 words of my life.
Yeah, definitely.
I think my friend Don White has just shown up. Let's see if we can get him in here in the stream. Don White, author of Rose in Hell. Don, welcome. Another of the Twisted Tent. We got 6 of us here. That's not bad. It's not a bad turnout.
A majority.
So what's going on, Don? What got you involved in the Twisted Tent as a pretty new writer?
Bethany.
Story strikes again.
Well,
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying you were gonna kind of expressed interest, so there had to be something there.
I did. Yeah, I don't know what I wanted to write at the time. I was whatever, and I didn't get to see what was going on before, how we started all this stuff, but how you guys started the broadcast. But I just, like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to write, and the theme came out, and I decided to go dark military, cold winter stuff.
Yeah, and it works. You have one of the stories that we were talking about, how this whole collection has a little bit of everything, but the theme is just dark, heavy. So we've got some werewolves, we've got a ghost, but we were also talking about how we just have some classic fiction that still fits with that like theme and overall tone. And you have one of those stories. So
I thought it was incredibly brave to kind of jump in the deep water with everybody and just go, yeah, I'm down. Let's do this thing. And I think that's how you see brave people kind of rush to the head of the line sometimes in certain endeavors, because they, where others hang back and doubt and wonder if they can or can't. Some people just do it. And it's kind of, I think of it like bumblebees. Nobody told them that they can't fly, and they just do it anyway.
Oh, there you go.
So I thought it was amazingly brave to just jump in the middle of it. And I think it's a great way to get started with the first thing you put out being a short story.
Yeah.
Trial by fire.
A self-serving complimentary question that I can use to further aggrandize myself. All right. Kent, how do you craft little moments with so much tension? In Reunion, oh, you've read it already, Jared? Okay, the kid is standing at the window. He's standing there and watching his dad pack the car. By the end, I was gripping my Kindle and sweating. So, first of all, you should see a doctor. Second of all, no, seriously. So, and this is probably a good question for everybody. In order to make a reader want to turn a page, you have to ask questions or suggest questions that they need an answer to. That's really the whole thing. All tension is not knowing how something's going to resolve. And then the level of the tension is determined by stakes. What's at stake? So I write a lot of action. However, the stakes in Reunion, I decided to go a different route and try to challenge myself. The stakes are actually interpersonal relationships between a father, his brother, and his two sons, father and two sons. And there's a horrible, strained thing going on. So I started that story by putting my main character at a window, watching his father and brother leave him again to go off to the cabin in the woods. And he's holding a suitcase. And I think he says, this is the 10th time I've done this, and this will be the last, because he wants to go with them, but they won't take him. They won't tell him why. So I think the way, if you're talking about, Jared, I know you're working on being a writer yourself. I think the way to create tension is to put someone in a situation where if you could imagine being there yourself, it would cause a gigantic emotional reaction. So what would it be like if your younger brother and your father go off to a cabin to have fun without you all the time since your mother died, and you stood at the window over and over again, wanting to work up the courage to say, please take me with you. And then he finally doesn't just say, take me with you. He says, take me with you, or when you come back, I'm gone and I'm never coming home. So to me, that's to create dynamic tension between these characters. You have to be able to put your reader in a position where they could feel themselves standing at the window. Don't know if I'm that great at that, but I really like to try to think about how to create opposing forces, both inside the character and outside, internal and external. Does that answer the question? Somebody help me.
I already forgot the question.
Is something about creating tension. How do you create tension in small
okay. Tension? I like this. There are always little things that make people nervous. Some people are uncomfortable, and you're way more uncomfortable after they lock a door. You're uncomfortable. You just want to make your reader uncomfortable. I'm thinking of Hannah's story, which is essentially a chase, and you just kind of feel this thing breathing down your neck. It's a slow build. And so I guess my main tip is a little bit goes a long way. Sometimes you just need to give the reader a hint that something is not all it seems, and the reader, their mind starts spinning.
You do that a lot, Bethany. I think I've probably read 30 or 40 of your short stories. That's a recurring theme for you is like, you walk us through a regular scene of everybody doing something normal, and then somebody says one word that's just way off. And then they gloss right over and everybody keeps going along. You're like, wait, we're not going to address that? You dropped about 1 million of those bombs in My Brother. So another thing, I feel like I should bring this up. A lot of the stories in this anthology were originally entries into, the awe-inspiring, cup-storing, pencil-snapping, pen-draining, head-bowling, metaphor-making, sentence-spewing, cash reward-reaping short story competition, Doom. that I ran last year. Not to be confused with the current competition, which I'm not going to say the name. A lot of those were entries into the competition, so I had the pleasure of reading these and judging them for the competition prior. And gosh, some of the best entrants into the competition ended up being in the Twisted 10. That's a fact. Bethany Votaw, you won the dang thing.
Oh, but my story's not in it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're still the architect of the Twisted 10, so to speak.
Sort of. I was just like, who wants to do this? And everyone was like, yeah. We all took on our own roles.
Okay. So how many? I feel like there's at least 5 or 6 stories in there that were also in the competition.
I know Emily's was, Victoria's was, Charlotte was.
Yeah.
Orla's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's 4. There might be 5. There's for sure 4. Yeah. So I thought that was really fun because we got to take it from their contest entry point and then go through it again. And so it got improved and elevated just even more. And they were already great to begin with. And it was just fun watching the progression of some of the stories just get cleaner, tighter, crisper. Yeah.
Okay. I've got some other questions from folks who want to know stuff from you writer people. So, did any of you feel like I need to word this differently to get us in some kind of trouble with social justice warriors? Did any of you tackle themes that you consider to be taboo?
Taboo is a word, isn't it? Like, I think if you're an author, it's so tricky to answer that because you want to write what you want to write. I don't think my stories personally did, but I think my flash come from a place where maybe I was like the rest of the world, in a place where I had a lot more restrictions on me as a human being. I felt like certain powers that be in my country were controlling what I could and couldn't do. That's where a lot of the momentum for my story came from, but it doesn't deal with that as a subject. It just kind of came from that place.
For one of my stories, it deals with the theme of alcoholism a little bit. And then we talked a little bit about like possible eating disorders and possible drug use and coping mechanisms, but it was all very subtle and it was almost talked about in a conversational way. Like it wasn't a big deal because that's just so part of the life. But that theme wasn't directly addressed in the story. It gave readers a subtle background. There was another thing that was going on. I think that's the most taboo. I mean, again, taboo is like it varies by definition.
One person's taboo is another person's Friday night. Like it's kind of all in the eye of the beholder, isn't it?
I guess mine a little bit for the first one, a bit more. It dealt with sort of grief and losing a parent. But again, like Bethany just said, it wasn't a direct effect on the story. It was just like a background thing that was that the father was going through that in his own way whilst the story was going on. So yeah, that's what agree for me. I think nothing taboo then.
So Dawn, you actually wrote a story that it has a historical component to it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's based on the Korean War, the Frozen Chosen. It's called based off of that the Chosen. What was it? The Reservoir, the Chosen Reservoir. Big battle during the Korean War. What most people don't realize about the Korean War is that we fought China quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
So
Chinese and Koreans.
Yeah, very little Koreans. I mean, we did fight Koreans, but North Koreans, but it was a lot of Chinese we battled against. And what I was really worried about was the way the tensions are in the world about race and how I was, because it's at a point of view where you're being attacked and emotions are high, so words are said. And maybe not politically correct words. So that was what I was worried about when my story went out. So
Yes, I want to add a little bit to that. I think your story dealt with some really tough, nitty-gritty things, and it might be hard for some people, but the way that you wrote it, I think, this isn't a spoiler, but it just kind of shows that there was like no winner. There was no winning for anybody involved, and I thought that was a really interesting way of kind of bringing in that true horror of war. It was rough. There is some stuff that goes on. It's hard to get through. You get like a very shell-shocked feeling reading it. It's very well done action-wise. But I think that you did it in a very tasteful way, considering everything going on.
The mentor character, he struggled with PTSD through the whole story that made, and I think if as the story progressed more, if I would have went deeper, the main character probably would have suffered from the same thing. So that was what my main goal was to really bring out some PTSD stuff. So
yeah, I think you definitely did that.
And let's just tackle this as one of our first published short stories, is to delve into all these difficult situations. So one of the weirdest things about writing anything to do with war, I've written some military science fiction, and it always interests me because one of the things that we do, that soldiers have done since the beginning of time, since Greeks and togas and Spartans with shields and you name it, one of the things you do is you dehumanize the enemy. You always come up with a slang nickname for them because you can't hesitate in battle. And it's actually a function of practicality that a lot of people mistake for racism. Whereas, if you go to World War II and you ask the Allied soldiers that fought the Germans, they're like, those guys are good. Like, they didn't disrespect them. They knew they weren't, the SS and the elite people doing the awful stuff were obviously had dehumanized themselves. But like the average rank and file German soldier is not a bad dude. He's just a guy. You know what I mean? So, but they still call them Jerry's, and they, you dehumanize the enemy so you can do your job. There's a lot of that in the Korean War. And I felt like you managed to kind of walk between the raindrops on that issue, Don, because I didn't feel there wasn't anything you said where I'm like, oh, that's going to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because when I run into things I think that are going to get me in trouble, I write more of it.
Yeah. Well, I was stationed in Korea, so I knew some of the slang terms that were not very nice towards Koreans, so I chose not to use those terms.
So yeah, I gotta actually I'm asking all the questions, and I feel kind of guilty that I'm monopolizing your time. I don't want to ask Candace a question.
Okay.
So, Candace, you wrote kind of a emergent dystopian, like not we're dropped into a dystopian world, like you get to see the dystopia emerge. Where did you get the idea for your story? I
wanted it to revolve around frogs because I had this fascination with creatures.
I did not see that answer coming.
So I was thinking, how can I use wood frogs? And so I came up with this idea around a frog. I mean, it's not very exciting, but and also the idea that if anything were to happen like that, what would you do in that situation, and what decisions would you make in a world that's going to freeze?
I think that's why a lot of people like dystopian novels, because they can put the characters into situations where they're faced with choices that they're never really going to come up on a regular basis. So, and it gets hard to manufacture those if you write only contemporary fiction. Like, that's why everything I write, almost everything, has a little spark of the extra normal in it, just so that I can really put the screws to everybody without doing the same thing. Oh, they got my wife, they got my kid, because it's just about all you got. To put characters in a dramatic situation, I always want to try to put them in a situation that's almost unreal. It's so horrible. Dystopia does that for you.
Yes. I love this question. Was there drama?
Oh, between us?
Yeah.
What kind of drama?
Actually, yes, there was.
There was?
Oh, yeah, there was.
Personal drama.
Bethany, were we shielded from this?
Huh?
Well, obviously the other 4 aren't speaking to us. They wouldn't come.
Oh gosh. I didn't think there was any drama. Or were you joking? I cannot tell.
Never joking. I'm serious all the
No.
time.
There was no drama. It was really easygoing. I think everyone just wanted the best for this book, and they delivered. So.
Did everybody get everything in on time? Ish?
Yeah, we had to have like a couple of addendums just for stuff going on. Like I know someone needed like an extra draft and all of that to get their story right. So we weren't gonna force it type thing. But yeah, for the most part, Charlotte was like, I literally just need you to just text me every single day until I get it done. Cause she's like, I will literally forget. And I was like, okay. So we had like that type of working relationship. Yeah, I really want someone to answer this question. If you had a mini Hunger Games with all 10 authors, who would win and why?
That was Richard's question.
Oh, or maybe it's and with what?
I think Victoria wins because obviously the cake baker guy could hide in trees. So she would just do fancy makeup and none of us could see her. Dead. Every one of us dead. That's what I see happening.
Well, actually, I'm not the only makeup artist. Emily is also a makeup artist, so she's equally as talented. Well, I'm not very talented, but she's equally good at hiding, or potentially hiding in trees. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Man, I feel like Charlotte would win on accident.
She'd trip and fall and knock something over, and then it hits like a truck rolls down
Something
and
like-
explodes.
Or she'd be like walking around trying to find people and just like luckily miss everybody. I think she would win.
Stream of accidental chaos.
Yeah. My goodness.
So just for the record, if they were in a town that was starving, Katniss's district, why was there a job for a cake decorator?
He was a baker. There was more to it than that.
Cake
I thought he
decorator.
made bread. I thought he was a baker, like he made bread, not cake.
Weird.
decorating.
I call him Weird Chin Guy Cake Decorator.
Gosh.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Never seen the movie, never read the books.
I read all the books. She writes well, man. They turn pages, but there's some inconsistencies. I'm like, where were the developmental editors on this?
On
It's
holiday.
fine.
He decorates cakes so good, Don, that he was a master of camouflage. That was the
Okay.
idea.
Okay.
We can move on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got hung up on the Weird Chin Guy.
Watch. I'm gonna make like a extremely realistic cake now. Just. I like this question. It's a bit of a mean question, but it says, "What's your favorite story in the collection, not your own?"
Should we go around?
Oh,
Oof.
Do you want to go first, Hannah?
That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine is either Stonehearth, so Charlotte's.
That's a good one.
Yeah, or no, maybe Stonehearth. I think I'll settle on that one.
By the way, I love that story. That got one of my highest scores in the when I was judging the that one short contest that will not be named. Yeah, that knocked the judges' socks off. Solid story, and it's kind of a traditional ghost story. It just takes place in a weird setting. Yep.
It's a good one.
Plus. Okay.
like an X. I like Paula's story. I loved the Black Oak. It was the Black. Was it the
Okay,
Black
yeah.
Oak? I did get that right, didn't I? And I also loved your one, Bethany, driving. Is it driving?
Driving home. Yeah.
That one's my favorite. I'll just tell you right now, Driving Home is my favorite story in the collection.
Oh.
Yeah, that one's dark.
I really liked Candace's flash fiction. Like, it was snappy. It was quick. I think it was less than 600 words.
It's hard to do.
but it was good. Like the whole time I was like, what? Where are we going? What's gonna happen? And at the end I was like, oh man. So it had one of those. Yeah.
I have to say my favorite was either Return to Sender or Driving Home. I like them all, but it's one of those two.
Return to Sender was good too.
Wait, Return to Sender. Whose is that? I don't
Anna's.
think I read that one.
The
Nope.
letters.
Note to self: read Return to Sender. Maybe that's my favorite. I don't know now.
You totally read it. I
I
know
think you did.
had
I think
to.
I remember your feedback on it.
Oh, you guys are killing me. All right. I feel like one of my dogs right now, the way I'm doing this. Okay. By the way, my dogs are miserable right now because the backyard's being worked on. So they
They can't go out.
go out in the backyard
Aw.
and take them for walks, and they're just miserable. They want to run free.
Aw.
And I just like to insert random conversations about my dog into the middle of this wonderful book talk that we're having. What about you, Don? What's your favorite?
The one with where it was all cold and dark in winter.
It's all of them.
Yeah, all of them.
Narrowed it down.
Very dramatic.
No,
I guess I should.
my favorite was probably the 6 Silver Bullets, Danny Rangers.
Yep,
that was good.
That was got to be my top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good question.
Well, Kent, what's yours?
I said driving home was
Oh, you mean
favorite
first?
by a lot.
My bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
Let's see.
We have a question. What would you be called if there were 11 of you?
That's tough.
The Eclectic 11.
Eclectic. Ooh.
I can't think of anything.
Uh,
I'm gonna have another drink. I'll come up with something.
Evil.
the evil
Evil
11.
11.
The evil 11. There we go.
So, how many
Yeah, I
stories
don't
did we
know.
come up with total? How many were
17.
17? And what's our word count? What's our total word count?
62 something.
Oh, dang, you're
6,000
getting a
something.
novel. Go buy the book, people.
Mhm.
That's the value.
Yeah, it's a chunker.
Yeah.
A chunker.
No, it's great. It's great. I think the hardest part for me was formatting it with, okay, what order do we want the stories in? Because they were all so good and so unique in their own way. And it's just like, I don't know what to do. So for the really hard things of opening and closing the collection, I put it into the Discord and I was like, these are what I'm thinking. What do you think? And we kind of voted on it. So that's how Victoria's was opening. No one was like vying for the spot. It was just, this fits with a classic ghost story, good length, not flash fiction, because we wanted to use the flash fiction to kind of break up the longer stories. It was way more complicated than I thought.
It is.
I have a question from a gentleman named Gerard. I'm probably saying that wrong. Anyway, Gerard. His question is, who edited the collection?
Well, we all chipped in, didn't we? But I think Bethany mostly was the top proofreader.
Yeah. I hope it went okay, because there was a point where I was like, my mind is going numb. I've read these stories so many times. So I think everyone was in charge of proofreading the final copy.
I would say that the developmental editing was a group effort. I personally spent a lot of time with some of these stories, going through them very carefully, and couldn't do everyone. And when I went through them to try to comment, I mainly offered developmental editing because I'm not a copy editor. That's not what I do. I hire people. But for the ones that I did read, I really tried to dig into the story and like think about it. Like, it's funny, like when I was reading, and I'd already read Knock Knock. Like, I'd already read it for the competition, but then I reread it, and like that story was with me for days. Same with you, Candace. Same with you, Bethany. And some of these stories that I really dug into, same with you, Don. It's like I would walk around with the story all day thinking about it, like what is it that we're getting after here? How can we dig into what's happening? How do we want to get people to the next page? I actually really enjoyed doing that. I'm kind of wondering if I might not try to dig into that as a side gig to do developmental editing, because people overcharge like crazy for that. They'll charge you $1,500 and they'll send you a 1-sheet editorial letter for your $1,500. I'm like, do you think you could do a little more than that? Maybe we should talk. Should have a conversation about the story. That's why I don't pay for it. I get copy edits and proofreads, and that's it.
Well, and I think the beauty with this group was everyone had different strengths. So we went to you, Kent, mostly for developmental stuff. Like, you helped me with driving home because you were like, beautiful story. What happened? I was like, great question. Why did you have to ask me like that? It's fine. But we like figured that out. And then Hannah and Victoria are just like super solid with anything like prose, line edits. And so we really relied on them going through the story to kind of clean it up a lot. So, and then like you connected with certain stories and worked on them more, and I did the same. Like Dawn, I felt really connected with your story, and we wanted to get that going. And then I know Danny worked with Candace more just because he connected with her story a little bit better. So, I mean, we all kind of, I don't know, it was a very easy process. I think it just took a lot of time.
I just wanted to say special thanks to Hannah Palmer for the story of mine that didn't make it into the collection, because I thought there was too much work to do. I was going to change the POV to third person and do some other stuff, and it's long. It's a 15,000 word story. So I didn't do it, but because of a lot of people's notes, but Hannah, especially your notes on my story Swords, The Last Winter, that's going to be a book now.
It feels like a novel.
I think it actually might be 3 books.
Yeah.
And I got the idea reading your commentary. So thank you.
No worries.
You might make me some money. I'll share. We can talk percentages.
I want to thank everybody that's here, because you guys all helped me by far. Every one of you guys that are in here that jumped in and gave me a lot of pointers, because I'll tell you, I was scared out of my mind to do this. This was probably one of the scariest things to do.
So proud of you, Don. I know you were feeling the imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
And I think even up to like the very end, you're like, feel free to pull my story. I was like, no, Don, like it fits. It's great. It's already in the table of contents right where I want it. Like, it's great. I really hope people read your story and can enjoy that.
I don't think you believed it was going to be going in, did you? Right to the last minute. It was.
I thought this was a joke. This has got to be a joke. They're going to pull me out any minute.
This is so interesting to me. And Aphrodite Lee, I'm sorry you missed it too, girl. Aphrodite Lee's awesome. She's putting out awesome stuff. Go check her out. So. Imposter syndrome keeps coming up, and I keep asking everybody what this is all about, but it actually hit me this past week, because I got back my manuscript for my novel Blind Spot, which comes out in May. By the way, Blind Spot May, Forbidden September, and Forsaken in December. So you're getting 3 books by the end of the year, and covers are done. Written 2 of them. I'll be writing the other one pretty soon. But as I was getting to this stage where I'm at that jumping off point, Victoria probably and Hannah know about this because they've got novels out, where I'm like reading the copy edits. I'm like, is this good enough? I mean, I've already done beta reading, and people told me it's good. People read it. 30 people have read the book and said it's good. And now I'm reading it going, I can't even see this thing anymore. Like, I don't even know what I think about it anymore. Like, every paragraph to me, I'm like, is this good writing? Any of it? I don't know. you got to turn that part of your brain off and just get through your edits and move on. It's never going to be perfect. And I think part of imposter syndrome, I think the really bad thing about, I think the way that you let imposter syndrome wreck your life is by comparing yourself now to where other people are, rather than comparing yourself now to where you were yesterday. And I think that that's the only real way to judge yourself. So I read a lot of good people, good authors. I'm associating with great people. I love Victoria Wren's book. I love Hannah Palmer's book. I got to beta read Bethany's short story collection coming out. I got to beta read her novella. Stuff's good. Like, you want you want to think that you belong in the same gang with good writers. And I think sometimes it can be hard to do because, you know, you can, you don't see other people's flaws the way they see their own. So to you, they look better than, you know, Hannah or Victoria could probably pick up chapter 1 of each of their books and I can gush over it and they can go, I should have done this right here. You know, you can't see yourself correctly. You never do.
I find it really hard to take praise. I find it really, really hard. I just like, it's just not good.
I think that's good though, because I think one of the things that drives people to excel is not thinking they deserve the praise and then saying, instead of going, I don't deserve this, I'm going to crawl under a rock, you say, I don't deserve this, but these people like my stuff and they're going to read the next thing. I need to get to work. I need to give them something good to read. Like, this needs to be good. I can't just, I need to get after this. And I like that feeling. I think it's good to be a little scared. I think it's good to be a little on the edge. And that's my little motto I always say is write brave. And the question about taboos cracks me up because my first short story collection, generally speaking, if there's a thing that can get you in trouble, I put it in there. Go check it out, 99 cents on Amazon. But my point is, when it comes down to it and you've finished the project, you've done the number of edits you think you need to do, you've sent it to beta readers, you've sent it to your copy editor, you've done the damn thing. Well, guess what? Time to put your little book baby out in the world, let it run around and get dirty, and start writing the next thing and try to do better next time. So I think that a lot of imposter syndrome really just comes down to holding a mirror up to the world that doesn't show an accurate picture and trying to live up to it. I think that's the same thing with what we're having teenage girls on Instagram looking at other girls on Instagram who are by no means, there's not one pixel that hasn't been altered on that picture. They're like, why don't I look like that? Because nobody does. Nobody's perfect. Every book has problems. Every story has problems. Just do your damn best and put the thing out there. And be afraid. It's okay to be afraid. The definition of bravery is not a lack of fear. It's being afraid and doing it anyway. Wow, I just talked a lot.
I think I just wanted to add, like, I think all of these stories were like pretty much done in October. We were planning on releasing, I think, in November or December. And then just things got really backed up with Amazon, like their printing and stuff. So I wasn't getting proof copies for like a month. And I was like, I really need those to see if the formatting works. And it didn't work. And so, I mean, our stories have been done, what is it, October, November, December, January, February, March, almost half a year. So I bet when we read this again, this book in our hand, we're going to be like, oh, I wish I had done this differently. Oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Oh, I wish I could tweak it. And that's because we have almost 6 months more experience under our belt. And some people have written books in that time. Some people have dramatically improved. And so I think that's just part of the like artist type thing. I'm curious on Candace's perspective because she illustrates. And do you ever look at your old work, Candace, that you've done and you're like, oh, why did I do that? Or
yes,
can't appreciate it the way that you did.
Yeah, I want to throw all my old work away and I wish I never showed anybody. But then again, it shows my journey and it shows, you know, what I could do now versus what I did then, you know. And imposter syndrome happens with all types of artists, whether it be, you know, digital artists or writers, you know, and it's really hard to get over. But what you said, Kent, was very inspiring because I've been having that same issue with illustrating. I've been having a hard time showing my work because I'm scared. And that was really inspiring. I feel like I want to go draw now.
Go get it, girl.
But,
I'm available for pep talks anytime you want. $50 a minute. This stuff's real, and you know, I think the majority of what I can actually say now, an acquaintance of mine, Stephen Pressfield, tells me, you know, if you read his book, The War on Art, he talks about a force called resistance, and it's particularly prevalent in artists. And basically what it is, it's that feeling where it's time to sit down to write your story or draw your picture or sculpt your sculpture or do whatever weird ass thing you call art. And it's almost immediately you feel like there's something pushing against you. Oh man, I really don't want to do this right now. In the middle of that Netflix series, I can finish it right now. I'll do it later. I'm supposed to do 2,000 words today. I'll do 4,000 tomorrow. You know that feeling? I can make up for it later. I don't want to sit down right now. What that really is an evolutionary force. It's our mind and body wanting to keep homeostasis, to keep things the same. Because if you succeed, that means change, and change is freaking scary. The human animal has survived all this time because we avoid change. If we know where to get water, where to get food, we keep doing that. Change is hard, which I could turn this into a conversation about the hero's journey and why that matters to us, but I won't do it for this stream. But it really is in our DNA. It's in our psychology. And it's why, have you guys ever noticed when you get towards the end of a book, you start doubting the whole thing and like, oh, maybe I should go back, try again. All that is your brain trying to stop you from finishing, because finishing means change. Because now you got to put this thing out in the world. Now you got to take risks. Now you got to get feedback, which could be painful. It's really just your brain trying to dodge discomfort. It's resistance. That's what he wrote a whole book about it called The War of Art. Talks about it as if it's a character, as if it has its own personality, like a demon fighting you. I always just called it doubt, but he really took it to another level. And what I mean is, so imposter syndrome is really just resistance. It's just that everything in the world to stop you from crossing that finish line so you don't have to change. Because if you do become a person that starts selling books and you do have lots of people reading your work, you're opening yourself up to all kinds of potential disaster, pain, 1-star reviews on Amazon. This person, why did they think they can write? Oh my God. You don't know what you're going to get. You're out there naked in the wind. I don't want to say naked so much, but you're out there doing weird stuff and everybody can see you. It's like the dream you have where you show up in high school and you're only wearing your, what would you say in England? Knickers. And
hate that word.
Seriously, that's why it's hard to finish. That's why it's hard to get better. That's why most people don't. It isn't that talent is such a rare thing. Talent is as special as table salt. Persistence and completing and getting through and fighting through resistance, that is gold. That's what's rare. And I think that things like putting out a short story anthology like this to bring it back home to our original subject would be a chance for people to be brave and jump off the end of that diving board, flip out in the air and know, I might belly flop, but here I am, I'm in the air and we're getting this thing done. And I that's the same reason I do the short story competitions. Believe me, it is nothing but a pain in the butt for me. And then I pay people. But the reason I do it is because I'm paying it forward for the couple of people that have inspired me and got me to start finishing. Because once you start finishing, it's on like Donkey Kong, because you're getting better. You're getting better every time. And it's exponential. You don't get a little bit better when you finish the story. You get a lot better. And just like you were just saying, in retrospect, I wish I'd done this and that. You can't have retrospect until you finish.
You were doing so well.
You see what I'm saying though? You can't do it. How can hindsight be 20/20 if you have nothing to look back on? So you have to get done. So now all these 10 people have multiple stories out in the world, and it's a beautiful thing. And even if you look back on it as an author and you go, could have done this better. Good. Because if there was nothing you could have done better, you're done and you're never getting any better. You've reached the pinnacle. There's no new high for you to find, no new mountain for you to climb, no new challenge for you to overcome, no new dragon to slay. You're done, baby. So I think it's a good thing to be on a journey. I think it's a good thing to know you could do better. I think it's a good thing that I'm day drinking.
We've all just joined the Church of Kent Shawn.
That's funny.
Bethany left. See, it happens every time I talk too much. People start.
This is what happens when you get specced.
I know. Also, I feel like there's something Candace said earlier to be a good name for a rock band. Something about it has to be about tree frogs or something like that. What kind of frog was it?
They're called wood frogs.
Wood frogs. All about wood frogs. All right.
It's a good band name.
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin, you can put all of my quotes on your wall. I would really like you to do a video where you read bad poetry, and behind is like all my inspirational quotes. Yeah. By the way, if you don't know Benjamin T. Milnes, go watch the replays of some of his live stream. He literally made really expensive whiskey come out of my nose while he read The Bridge of Tay.
Oh man, that must have felt good.
I couldn't feel anything, so it was fine. Okay, somebody else talk now.
We got a question about, can we get a summary of each story, which is why I went and grabbed the first ever proof copy of this book. I had marked it up with all of my notes in it. So I'm going to give like a 1-sentence summary of each story. I'm pretty confident this is the original order, the final order. This original order ended up being the final order. Anyway, we start with Knock Knock by Victoria Wren. Follow a young girl trying to get to the bottom of this strange sound coming from her flat. And nothing is what it seems. Next up, we have Black Oak by Orla Hart. This is one where we are sitting on a park bench in a park, looking at this tree, trying to make a life-altering decision. From the Forest by Hannah Palmer. Something is after you. That's all. I don't want to spoil it. Something is after you. That's all I got. We got Frozen Hell by Dawn White. We are in the midst of a gruesome, gory battle, and we follow a character navigating through that. Out of the Woods. This one is by Emily. She goes by E.A. Oliveri as her pen name, and this is a whimsical story of a girl who's lost in the woods.
It's almost a fairy tale.
Yeah. It has those fairy tale vibes, yes. Then we have Ironheart by Victoria Wren, and this is a fantasy world, very Viking world. And one of our main characters gets herself in deep with a very powerful person, and it's her way of getting out of that. Then we have Lists by Bethany Votaw. This is probably one of the weirder stories.
It's good, girl.
It's a listicle story. Something's weird happened at a story, and this person writes what happens.
I take it back. That's my favorite.
I like that as well.
Yeah.
It's creepy. It's really creepy at the end.
So something people don't know, she wrote like 4 versions of this of this story, and it's not a regular linear narrative story. It is really an amazing piece of art, and I love it, and it's got things in it that I like and like to write about, so it made me very happy.
I think I kept sending Hannah and Victoria like new copies, and it was like, okay, 4th version, 5th version, and then I was like, I'm going mad now. Like, I need to stop because it took a while to get right, but I like it.
Go a little crazy to write certain things, so probably worked out.
That was the end result. Then we have You'll Be Sorry by Orla Hart, and this is just a classic.
Vengeance.
Meeting up with an old acquaintance, and yes, we get some good old vengeance there. Then we have Snowdrift. Wait, what?
I'm sorry, I just forgot. I really like that story.
Yeah,
that was in the contest as well.
I know there's some awesome stories here. The next one we have is Snowdrift Peril by Candice Teague. This is her flash fiction. We meet a main character who is lost and confused, and we try and figure out what happened to her. Yeah, autographs. Woo! After Snowdrift Peril, we have Reunion by Kent Shawn. A family secret comes to light, I guess is the best way. Do you want to pitch it?
It's about some guys
in the woods. Yep.
They go out near the woods.
After Reunion, we have Ship's Log by Charlotte Armstrong, who goes by C.R. Armstrong. And this is a sci-fi story and we get to watch a ship go through some struggles. And that one's also written in a very unique format. And then we have Return to Sender by Hannah Palmer. And this is a classic, man, it almost feels like a contemporary second chance like relationship thing, but we also have a ghost and a cat. This one, like
cat.
And a cat.
This one, like I don't know how to explain it without getting so spoilery, but it had so much setup to just chill the person to the bone, but Hannah took it in a different way, and I loved it even more. So that's all I'm gonna say with that.
I'm gonna go read that right after this.
Yeah, it's a good one. After Return to Sender, we have Driving Home by Bethany. We follow a main character coming home from college and working through some things. We
I
have.
don't suppose you could be more specific.
How
Working
to
through
be.
some things? I don't know what that means.
Wait, say that again? I literally could not understand you.
No one can understand me.
I don't want to know what's going on.
I want some specifics. What are they working through? What are their problems? Tell me your problems, Bethany.
This is the first Christmas that they will be having without our main character's older sister.
Ah.
So working through some things. After Driving Home, we have 6 Silver Bullets by Danny Ranger. This is a very interesting one because we've got like little chapters within this story, and we are following a main character on a quest to uncover something, to find out what happened to his family.
You know what that one reminds me of a little bit? It's like a little bit like Stephen King's The Gunslinger, that kind of concept, because it has a Western vibe, but it's definitely a fantasy story.
Mm-hmm.
So really, really interesting way to put that together. I liked it.
Yeah, this one, when you're reading it, it's really immersive. So I think people will really enjoy that story.
I don't know what immersive means, but yeah.
Yeah, it's immersive.
Yeah.
After that, we have Scarlet Snow by E.A. Oliveri, otherwise known as Emily here on YouTube. And this follows a main character dealing with some PTSD from something that happened and how she reacts and goes through life because of that.
I don't know about you guys. That Scarlet in the Scarlet Snow makes me think of blood.
Yeah, there might be some of that.
That's scary.
After Scarlet Snow, we have Endless Winter by Candace Teague. And this follows the world on the brink of extinction because of this new ice age. And we follow a main character trying to navigate the science side and the family side of this crisis.
She basically wrote a Michael Crichton novel as a short story. It's got science,
family, drama.
all kinds of stuff, man. You should have put Dr. Ian Malcolm in there, though, that, you know, from Jurassic Park. You needed that guy.
With the dogs. And then the last story closing us out is Stone Hearth by C.R. Armstrong, also known as Charlotte. And this follows a main character on the way home from a museum that she visited, and something happened there, and it wasn't good.
Hey, just to warn you out there, there's some steamy moments in Stone Hearth.
In that story, yes.
Hot, and there's steam. What were you thinking? You're all gross. I don't know if I can hang out with you anymore.
Yes, so that's the rundown of all of the stories.
I've read it.
I'm trying to find. I wanted to show you. This is what the ship's log looks like. It's a very unique format. This is very difficult, but it's like a fun way that she wrote this. Kind of adds a new dimension to the story. So there's like, we got to play a little bit with this because there were no rules. And then here's the cover. It's tweaked a little bit since we created this. Emily created this. Yeah, so cool. Can move on to other questions now that we got the.
I don't like the cover. Let's redo it. Let's just blood everywhere.
Try it again. Okay, yeah, no.
I heard,
There's
I
some
heard it's
blood.
really easy to do covers, so we could just redo it right now, right?
Yeah.
You literally said, I think we need more blood, and Emily was like, I tried, but it looks like a cartoon, and you kind of acquiesced, but you're like,
I didn't mean any of that, by the way, but the reason I'm saying that is because there was like a literal digital wrestling match, like a UFC event, World Wrestling Federation, over trying to get the cover to fit and make the cover work with Ingram Spark.
Yeah, no, Emily and we went back and forth trying to get it just right on Amazon because we have like this cute little spine that was working on some copies but not on others, and then Ingram Spark happened, and
there's your drama.
That was
drama.
That was the drama, the cover drama.
Where was the drama?
I don't have it in here, but just so I can say I feel your pain. My book Evil Grows in the Dark is only 120 pages. So I wanted to do that, like the classic 8x11 size. I might not do that for my other books, but for that one, I really wanted to do that size. But that makes the spine really small. So I basically, the print copy and the cover was ready on launch day. And 6 days later, I got them to accept the cover because I had to redo the spine literally 20 times. And a lot of wasted time and revision. It's not as easy as you think. That's why I've hired someone to do my next 3 books, so I don't have to ever do that again. Yeah. Horrible.
I couldn't do it.
Hey, so what? Did we hire anybody outside to do anything on this book? It was all internal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because Hannah did like all the marketing stuff. Emily did some of the art concepts for that. Someone asked how we came up with the title and how we designed this. We had a couple of ideas for the titles. We put it up for a poll. We voted, and we're like, this works. This took me forever to remember that A Season of Darkness was our title because I just kept calling it the Twisted 10. So, and then Emily had a couple of concepts, and Candace really helped with that too because she's got like the artist brain and whatnot. So we just opted for a very crisp, clean title with a fun background. So we've got some oak leaves, some blood, a little bit of snow. This was supposed to be released in winter. That's why we have a lot of winter motifs and themes. But then just the state of the world and shipping stuff kind of pushed back our launch date, which is fine because we were doing it all ourselves. We had no one to answer to except ourselves, which was great. It allowed for a little bit more time to get all of the craziness taken care of.
Bethany wants to immediately do another anthology.
I would like a break. Someone did ask, I think it was Richard, like, how do we get into the Twisted 10 again? And then I had another question of, are you going to do something like this again? And I think the answer is yes, but it will be done in a little bit different fashion, I think, moving forward.
Longer lead time. You need to have more time up front because nobody should be overburdened by doing a group project. That's trying to put out books.
Yeah.
Pretty much almost everybody in the group is really seriously pursuing a career as a writer. So, yeah, I'll always do it though.
Yeah. And I mean, they asked if we would bring more people on, and it's like, I don't see why we wouldn't. I don't know if 100% of the people in this group of 10 would want to do it again, but that's all for like next year. We'll talk about it. Ask me again in a year.
Honestly, I will do it just to trade stories with you guys. That's pretty much why I would do it. I'm not trying to make any money doing this.
It was fun. I learned a lot. All of the feedback was great. And I know Dawn was kind of overwhelmed, and I think a couple of other people were overwhelmed with, like, literally it was a Google Doc that we shared with everyone. So at times you had multiple people working on your book, and it was a little overwhelming. And Dawn, this was like your first time dealing with feedback, wasn't it? How did you handle that?
Not good.
You did great.
There was a couple times I was like, screw this. Insert another word. But no, I toughed it out. Like I said, with you guys' help, and Shawn really beat me over the head with some stuff. So I went and I kept going.
That's what I do. I beat people.
Getting out of your comfort zone. I'm really proud of you for that. Because I knew you were gonna get overwhelmed, but I was like, this is the way it has to be. This is how you get feedback. Sorry. And you did great. And you have a great story because of that. Let me find it for you. Isn't that fun? I sent you got an arc, I think. Right? I don't know. Oh, wait, here's lists. I think I redid that a little bit. It's just so fun. Oh, here's reunion. How fun.
I don't know. I don't even remember what happens. You know how many
crazy.
hundreds of thousands of words I've written since reunion. I got to be honest. I got to go back and read it. I don't remember.
I was like that with driving home. I was like, wait a minute, what happened?
I remember she sent me a message like, so your story's done. I'm like, what story? Oh, yeah, I mean, totally. That thing is done. It's so
so crazy. I know. Because there was like a giant lull between our schedule because we're like, okay, let's get our second drafts done. Like, and you really didn't have to do a ton for your second drafts, Kent. So you were just like, that was it. And then I was like kind of getting the official like, okay. And you're like, what story? I'm like, do you still want to do this?
Hey, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Reunion is a first draft with a copy edit.
It works.
But okay.
Meanwhile, I was losing my mind over lists, writing it 12 million times. It's fine. It's fine.
Take them out. Yeah, I was. I got to tell you guys, I set a schedule for myself, and I don't want to just talk about myself. Okay, I want to talk about myself. Here we go. I set a schedule for myself. Stop laughing at me, Victoria. How dare you? How dare you? I thought we were friends. So it's hard talking to me, isn't it? You're just like, God, how do I get out of this? Anyway.
I was just getting my drink. Sorry.
I proved
It's actually night here, so it's late. I'm having a
middle of the day here, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Anyway, so essentially, and this is all Bethany's fault, by the way. We kept having these back and forth conversations where we're like, we got to get stuff out now. Like, you got to stop, got to just pull the trigger, books out now. Not next week, not next month, not next year, right now. I have material. I'm kicking out material. I'm writing a book every 3 or 4 months. Why are there not books out? So
that's great.
We had, she's been an amazing critique partner, and really, to me, a little kind of almost like a business partner, more than just a critique partner, because I'm heavily invested in the success of her work. And I haven't found anybody that was a critique partner that I could trust. She really, honestly, I think Bethany's my developmental editor. She's just not getting paid.
I'm a very much a line editor, so thanks.
And I'm trying to kind of yank Hannah and Victoria into this game too, but I don't need more opinions. But anyway, that's okay, because we're going to be talking as my next couple of books come out, Hannah and Victoria, as I start begging you guys to help me with them. But I'll help back. Anyway, my point was, like, I set a schedule. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to challenge myself to create a series based off of Bethany's feedback off my book Blind Spot. I've never written a series, and she liked a character that I hadn't thought of as being that big a deal, and then she got me thinking, and I'm like, okay, well, the next book is this character, so let's take this character and make another story. And then next thing I know, I'd written another novel in weeks. And then I realized I don't need to wait. I don't need to wait 6 months to write a novel. There's no reason to do that, really. The only reason you wait that long in traditional publishing is because you finish the manuscript, you send it in, and you don't see it for months. And then it's this big back and forth. Like, why would I do that? Why would I do that? So I decided to finish the series this year and get it all out this year. And it's all Bethany's fault. So while we were sending these stories back and forth, I was planning this epic, ridiculous schedule of writing a prequel and 3 novels, plus the novel I was already writing, Charge, which is finished. But so that would make 4 novels in 1 year, including edits, the editorial process, beta reading feedback, copy edits, the whole 9 yards in 1 year. Why are you making that face, Hannah? She's like, this guy's dumb. But I'm going to do it. And so I got Reunion finished, and then I literally forgot that I was involved in the and then the anthology at all, because Bethany was and a couple of the others were doing all the work. I gotta tell you, it's a miracle I'm even sitting in this group. I wrote one story, you all wrote two, or one really long one, and I got one in there. But the point is, I didn't have time to even hardly look at the story. And I thought that was actually kind of a victory, because instead of obsessing over it and freaking out about it, I could just go, oh, I wrote it. It's not horrible. And let's just put it out in the world and see what happens and not freak out about it. And then that was like crossing a weird threshold for me, where I could go, maybe everything doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe you can just put out some cool stuff for people to read and move on. And I think that's, well, Victoria, I know you're there because you're producing fast, right?
Well, yeah, I have just written book 3. It's finished, and yeah, it's crazy, really. But I've only been able to do that because I've had nothing. I've had no work for the last year of my life, so it's crazy. Yeah, I think you're right. Though it is good to get it out, not to wait, not to hold off, just get it published, and it just. I feel like I don't think I could be as quick as you though. It takes me a lot longer. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting over it too much. I don't know. You're working really fast.
I don't know, girl. You're going pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
I know when you started this last book, and I know when it finished. And what was that? 2.5 months? 3 months?
The third one, yeah, I think
pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
I jacked up my last novel, Victoria. I wrote the first 65,000 word version in about 2.5 weeks. And first draft, messy. But then I realized I had an epiphany later. I'm like, oh, I should do this. It's so much better. And it was so much better, I had to go back and fix it. So I started back at 18K and then wrote completely different new 35,000 words. But still, it only took about 4 weeks. So I think you gain, every time you finish something, you gain confidence. And then those people hear those numbers, like I had a 7,000 word day the other day, and they're like, oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. I'm like, it's not crazy to someone that's doing it every day. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's like, even if you see a professional hatchet thrower throw a hatchet, you go, that's just unreal. He's like, no, it's not. I do it every day. I don't know where hatchet throwing came from. But, everybody throws hatchets, right? You guys throw hatchets?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's commonplace in England.
But everything is amazing to people that don't do it all the time. But what scares me sometimes is I tell people, we just finished your book this year. They're like, oh, I just really want to get it right. I'm like, I don't think you taking a year to write a book is the end result of that is getting it right. I think the end result of that is dicking around and finding excuses not to finish. So maybe all your I'm getting it right thing is a big excuse you're making to chase perfectionism instead of putting out a nice story for somebody to read. Or am I correct?
No, I mean, the tracker has been done for 6-7 months. And I'm not
this whole time.
Yeah. Well,
Look out,
it's not going to be published for another 6 or 7 months just because of like the season that I really want to publish it in. But it was like, Bethany, it was done. You've been holding on to it for a year, and why? I don't know. So this is the year of, okay, you finished it, now
Get rid of it.
Push it out there. And I think that's why this anthology is great. It's like my first time truly having something published in a book. I mean, I've had short stories published in like magazines and stuff, but that's different. That's someone else doing it. My name's just on it. But this is like, okay, we did it. And I didn't freak out, and the world's still spinning. So I guess I can do it with my own stuff, So that's where we're at.
So I got to get this guy on a live stream. A long time back, I asked Benjamin Milnes if he would come on a live stream with me and talk about his book on the subject of trolls. Anyway, he told me no. Didn't want to be on my live stream, which kind of hurt my feelings. But he always has the cleverest things to say. And don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I don't think I could have summarized that better. Stretching for perfection can be considered an admirable trait, right? We want to make our book perfect before it comes out. So since no things are perfect, that would mean you kept reaching for it forever and never did anything at all. So how do you, can I shift this discussion just for 1 second? When is a piece done?
Never.
Let's hear this. I'd really like to hear everybody say this. Dawn, I actually particularly want your opinion because you finished a few things before this though, right, Dawn? Smaller things, right? Or no?
No.
Okay, so let's start with Dawn. The perspective of different levels of writing. We got a couple of published authoresses here who wrote amazing books, period. They're great books. They're out in the world. Their position versus Don just finishing his first thing versus me just starting to publish versus Candace, I'm an artist and I'm writing this thing, what you want, versus Bethany and her strange furry creature in her lap. I would really like to hear the different perspectives. When is a piece done, Don?
When is a piece done? I guess when you put it up to publish.
Okay, when do you feel like it's done? So you're saying deadline based?
Yeah.
You're saying it's done when it's time for it to be done?
Yes, basically. Deadlines, for sure.
That's a very professional opinion, really, because most artists say it will be done when the moon shines upon me and the phase of the ocean, the tides come, and I feel the feelings inside my feelings.
What is in that cup?
Yeah.
Well, it was up here with vodka and
Nothing.
Nothing left.
There's nothing.
I just read an article and watched a little video on it too. That if you force yourself to write or whatever you're doing, if you're an artist or whatever, if you force yourself into deadlines, you're more productive and more creative that way.
Think of Hannah.
Yeah, so Hannah's the deadline girl.
I don't do anything if I don't set a deadline.
Yeah, I've heard you say that in your videos before, and I really like that because, like, it reminds me that's when I really started producing. Is when I started, even though I wasn't publishing yet, and I decided a while back I wasn't going to start publishing until I thought I was good. And you never think you're good, so obviously I'm probably breaking my own rule about perfection, but I had a bad experience, which is to immediately get attention for the first thing I wrote. To me, that's the worst thing that could have happened to me because I was a rank beginner. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to fix anything. Like if an editor said, hey, this moment sucks, you got to move this and do this, I wouldn't know what to do. Like I just didn't know anything.
That's the way I am right now.
That's not true, Don. You people gave you feedback and you fixed things. Period. You did it. So I was terrified to work with editors, and I've brought it up. People that watch this channel are probably sick to death of me talking about working on Lydia with Bethany, but it really was transitional for me because my first experience was with, publishing house editors who are they're nice, but I'm gonna tell you right now, they're telling you what to do, and there's not a lot of room to wiggle when you play in that game. And I didn't know what I was doing yet, and I honestly wasn't ready to let someone else change my stories. So I decided to get good and write a bunch of stories first before I started self-publishing my stuff, and then just keep control so that it was really mine. But I got to tell you, the first time I let an editor mess with one of my stories was Bethany.
You didn't die. It was an okay experience.
Freaking screws to me. All you need to do is POV intents change for a story with a surprise reveal that relies on POV intents.
I said it was worth a shot.
But I tried it and it worked. So I think it's interesting, like what Don's answer to my question, which is when is it done, is he said when the deadline is, which is, I think we're talking about Stephen Pressfield, the guy that wrote War of Art. He would say that's the right answer. Because a professional, when you stop being an amateur and start being a professional, it's not about your gooey feelings anymore. It's about this piece of work needs to be completed by this date. And I think that echoes kind of what Hannah says in her videos. Like, I don't get it done if I don't set a deadline. So in one way, what seems like an imposition or a constraint can actually set you free. What do you think, Victoria? How do you know when one of your books is done?
I think when I no longer just keep reading it over and over. I think when I think that's the best I can possibly do, and I've got beta feedback, and I don't know, you sort of have a feeling, don't you? You've got confidence. You think, okay, this is ready now to go on. I don't think you ever really feel that it's completely ready. I don't think I'll ever be like, this is perfect. I find it hard even now to read the first book. I go, oh my God, I could have, but that's my imposter syndrome. So,
I don't find it hard to read your first book, and I'm picky as hell. So,
well, that's really good. I just find, because I find it really hard to take praise and read it. I think, oh my God, there's so much that I probably could have done. And I feel like maybe that's the right thing, that you're supposed to get better, aren't you? You're supposed to, as the series goes on, as you produce more, you get better gradually as you go on. So I think that book 2 and book 3 are better. It's moved on, and I feel like I've got better. So you can be the judge of that, because you can read I'll send it to you.
Well, first of all, I can tell you, book 1 is good, and then I can tell you that you took a jump in book 2 in a lot of ways. I thought pacing. I thought you did a really great job at God, I don't want to spoil your book. I'm gonna just go in generic terminology. You did a really great job of bringing up layered series of questions that we want answers to, and then you didn't answer all of them, but you answered enough that we're satisfied with the end of the book and ready to read the next one. That's in genre fiction, which you're writing, commercial genre fiction. When you're writing that, hey man, the book is an advertisement. It is. It's come read the next one. You accomplished that beautifully, and there's still, that doesn't take anything away from good characterization, good prose, good all that stuff. There's all kinds of art in it, but you seemed like you nailed the art in the second book, and it also was wedded to kind of a sensibility of, let's get the people to the next book, especially that epilogue, which really, I finished the epilogue and I'm like, has she written the next chapter, and can I talk her into sending it to me? So that's
which one? Which one? Which book? For number? Oh, for 2. Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, the character you brought in book 2, and the epilogue with her. Yeah.
I forgot. Sorry.
Well, I don't.
Which one it was?
I may know your book better than you.
Yeah, maybe. I've just done book 3, so I'm all confused.
It's okay. Okay. So passing on, we're still on the same question, and I really do want to hear this from every level of writer is, when's it done, Hannah?
Literally when I decide to publish it.
So not deadline based.
Well, yeah, but that's the same thing. So I'll start a project and be like, I'll give myself 8 months to do this. Publishing date will be, I don't know, the 3rd week of August, and then that's.
Okay, so do you partition that time? Do you say draft 1 is done by?
Yeah.
2 is done by. I like that.
Yeah.
That's where I'm becoming way more strict with myself, to be honest with you, at this stage of my writing, because I don't have time to play. I'm actually literally imitating how Bethany told me. She's like, you don't have time. You just have to. You gotta get it burned out and get into that next draft. And that's interesting. So you and Dawn actually have a very similar take on it. Like, I can't do this forever. It's got to be out by August. And here we go. All right, Candace, I'm real curious on this from you. You haven't been through like an iterative process of write, rewrite, edit, put out for a while, and you tackled an incredibly complex story. And your first round of reads, a lot of people had a lot of they were coming at you with some story problems, and you had a lot of big things to fix. How did you tackle that, and how did you set the criteria for when it's finished?
So I tackled it by actually what I did was I wrote everybody's comments down, and then next to it I wrote down exactly what I needed to change, and then I had to basically just keep rewriting it in different spots. And when I think a story is finished is when you feel like you can let it go. You know, our stories are little writing babies, and when you let them go, they could fly or fall, but it's whenever you feel like it's ready. But Hopefully that answers the question.
Well, no, it does, and I think I liked hearing how you said it, because for you, probably the first time getting that amount of feedback, like it had to be maybe a little bit overwhelming. So what you did is you focused on the feedback. Like you didn't say, "Oh, these people are coming after me." You looked at it like an architecture project, and you got notes from another architect. This angle's off. This corner needs sanded. There's a beam sticking out over here. I don't know if you wanted that, but like you approached it kind of non-emotionally in a way, which is interesting for new writers, because a lot of them say some of the comment I get when I'm beta reading for newer writers, they go, "I write by feel," and I go, "Oh no," because like they don't want to acknowledge that some things have to have certain shapes and structures to them. Like when you're writing, ask Victoria, she's writing YA. There's a certain number of expectations for her to get in a book to acknowledge that genre. So she has to craft them into the narrative, or guess what? YA readers ain't reading it because they know what they're looking for. Things have shapes and structures. So what you did is you just looked at it, I would say in a kind of a very mature way, and said, okay, some of my shapes are out of whack. I need to fix these shapes. I think that's really smart. And actually maybe a little bit evolved, because most writers get emotionally like, "Oh, you don't like my lead character? Well, you." It's hard not to do, man. It's hard not to do when you're so invested in them.
Thank you. I related. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please.
I related a lot to my art. The process of creating art, it has structure as well. When you think of an artist, you think that they're just doing whatever they want and they just throw paint on a canvas, but there is structure to it. There are certain things you have to do in certain times, and I'm trying to relate that to art in a way, to writing, excuse me. I'm trying to relate art to writing. And so I knew that there was going to be a process of changing to try to make the story better, because that's what I want overall, is to make it better.
Okay, Bethany, I probably know your answer, but I think everybody else could benefit from hearing it. So, Bethany, when's it done?
Curious. So like you guys all, I have pretty structured deadlines, but when I know the book is done or the piece is done is when I send it to beta readers. Usually I only need one round of beta readers, because I get their feedback and I'm like, okay, you liked it. Great. Let's fix these issues. And then either one more draft or one more edit. And then it's done. Now, this was not always the case, because like Tracker, it's done. I mean, it's done. I have the cover, it's copy edited, formatted, it's done. So why isn't it out in the world? And that's not a deadline thing. That was a fear thing. So I think at this point in my writing life, I'm over that hurdle, and I have books planned, and I know my writing self well enough to know, okay, I need approximately 4 months for this novella, because I'm going to estimate 2 or 3 drafts. And I know my writing self well enough to schedule like that. Now, 2 years ago, Bethany might have needed 8 months for the same project because she didn't know what she's doing. So it's important, I guess, my biggest thing is audit yourself, and don't give yourself too much time, but also don't force yourself into a corner. And that just takes a little bit of trial and error. But yeah, if my beta readers were entertained, I have a month to clean it up, and then it's done.
Like that.
I thought for sure somebody was going to say, "How do you end this?" "When I feel the moon." I thought for sure somebody was going to say that.
Well,
when the tides are in perfect alignment.
I always rail against that stuff, because the most unreliable thing in your life is your emotions. So when people go, "I just felt it was done," I'm like, "Oh, so you have no idea." Is what you're saying. But I love it, and I'm not denigrating emotions. It's where a lot of the writing comes from. You know, you write hot and you edit cold, right? Like you put the emotions on the page, and I'm all for it. And I feel there's some emotional writing coming out of this group right here. Like, I gotta tell you, Hannah Palmer can make your freaking heart feel like it's pounding out of your chest to see what happens next. She really can. Victoria creates characters. I can see them in my head walking around. It might not be what you see, but I know what Rowan looks like. So like when you take these things and you're like, these people have crafted some amazing things and done so outside of the normal traditional publishing world. This just happened in their house. They're making these amazing things. And I think it's the hardest for us that are kind of independent folks to know when things are done, because there's no one telling you. There's no authoritarian figure running the show. There's no editor-in-chief. There's no agent. You have to come up with it yourself, and it's why I think it's an important subject. But for me, the way I know it's done is Bethany tells me. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but I kind of get it though. Like I had you read a bunch of my stories and was like, is this worth pursuing? And you gave me the green light and I was like, cool. If you had said no on some of them, I know your skills and I trust you as like a critique partner well enough to, okay, like let me fix this or shelve it type thing. So there is some merit to that. I understand what you're saying.
What I'm really saying is I have the same answer as Bethany. I send it to some people that I think kick ass. And I want to hear their opinions. And I try to make sure that they're different people. I don't have a lot of beta readers, but I have some beta readers that don't write a lick. And I have some beta readers that are writers and that write different genres. And I want them to read my stuff that's off genre to them. Or I got some readers that are just genre readers that read my stuff. And what I do is I listen to them. Because you can't, as we've talked about in this stream, it's a very, very long stream, that you can't see your own stuff. You can't. You're blind to it. You've read it 25 times. You've lived it. They're like pivotal scenes, like the hero at the mercy of the villain scene. I will rewrite that thing 20 times from 3 different perspectives. I just want to see what I can come up with. I'm never satisfied with the first blush. So the way I know it's done is to send it out to people, let them tell me what they think, synthesize that as a group set of feedback. Probably always 1 or 2 people I'm listening to more than everybody else, just because I know them and I think that they're in touch with what I'm doing. And then I go, okay. And I actually dismiss my own final opinion at that point and go, I don't know what this is anymore. I've read it too much. I know everything about these people that's not even on the page. There's no way for me to objectively look at this anymore. Send it to the proofreader and move on to the next thing. Because if you don't, this is all you'll ever do. How many people do you know that have been working on a novel for 5 years? How many? Come on. I know 6, 10, 12, 15. I don't even know how many people. I just want to get it right. Yeah, you're not going to get it right because there's no getting right a math problem with 100,000 variables. There's no getting it right. So I just say put it out, get a good group of beta readers, ask them what they think. And then if the general consensus is it's pretty good, you've won the lottery because it's rare that 16 people will agree something's good. All right. So
one I ever had beta readers was on Bethany's Discord. So I'm so grateful for that, but I'd never had anybody read anything before this, so thank you.
I love beta reading for good writers.
Mm-hmm.
Other writers, not so much.
Oh.
I try to beta read whenever I can. I will say something for those of you that are on your journey and you're maybe a more advanced writer and have written a lot. You need to beta read people that are behind you in the game. You need to pay it forward because somebody helped you, so you need to help them. You need to put a section of your time aside to help people on their way up. Don't pull up the ladder behind you, man. You gotta help other people up along the way, man. I honestly think that's the only way to go. Okay. Anybody else got anything else they want to talk about? We're an hour and 48 minutes into this bad boy.
I just have one.
I just want to. Go for it, Don. No, Don, go for it. Don, go.
All right.
Don.
Just real quick. Okay, I'm struggling with trying to find the time to write. I've tried a lot of different stuff. I go to work at 6 a.m. I don't get home until 4:30, 5 o'clock at night sometimes. So I've tried getting up at 4 a.m. and tried to write. I tried staying up late trying to write. I just can't find that sweet spot. Where do you guys do? What do you guys do? Kent, I know you're in Human. So I know you just write. I don't know. Go ahead. Anybody else? Do they have any tips, tricks, anything that they have?
I got a tip. What you do is, it doesn't matter how much time you have to write, because it's the time you got.
Okay.
You're fighting City Hall, man. It's like beating your head against a rock. If you've got an hour, you've got an hour. So what you need to do is you need to turn that hour into a pristine, ritualized event.
Okay.
You got to be willing to shut everybody out and tell everybody to shut the hell up for 1 hour. And then you got to get in there and you got to clear the decks. There's nothing on your plate. There's nothing on your mind. There's no internet. There's no email. There's no messaging. There's no nothing. You sit down and you tell yourself, and I don't care what you do, you say a little prayer in your head. Whatever you do, you go, for the next 45 minutes, I'm in this story and nothing else. If that's all the time you got, that's enough. And then what you do is you try to get so good at producing in that 45 minutes. You've got to turn it into a mystical experience where you'll let go. The rest of the day is just gone, man. You shred it, you burn it, you get it out of your head. I don't know why I'm talking like a New Yorker all of a sudden. I'm not. And then you focus on what you're doing. I mean, honestly, I think I'm a very scientific fella, but I'll tell you, there's some mysticism in this. You got to let the undermine come to the top, and you got to let it rule, and you can't let anything intrude.
Okay.
I have this one thing I told my wife, wherever we go, there's a room that's me in these bookcases, and that's it. Because I come in here, and there's one thing I do in here. I do this, and I write. Nothing else. Nothing else. So ritualize. I come in, I take a drink of tea or whatever it is that you do, but you need to create a pattern for that one bit of time that you have. If it's 45 minutes, Don, many great books were written 45 minutes a day. Believe it.
All right.
And I'm telling you, once I started really sectioning this time off and ritualizing it and really going after it in that time and just believing in turn off your editor when you're drafting. Just put your fingers on this happened. Don't write sentences, write the story. Writing sentences is hard, but you know how to tell a story. You can edit it later. And then the next thing I knew, I went from going, 1,000 words an hour to 2,600 words an hour to 3,600 words an hour. Now I've had some 3,000 word an hour days, but it's a couple of things. It's one, I would ritualize the time. I would make it like I do the same thing every time. I do it the same way every time.
All right.
That's one. Number two, be prepared. Know what you're going to write that day.
Okay. Yeah.
As you're going through your day, before you're getting to your writing time, start solving those problems. Don't try to solve them in real time when you're drafting. Oh, she's going to come to the door. She's going to pick the lock. How does she pick the lock? If you don't know that when you sit down, you'll stop. You'll stop. You got to come out. She got a lock release gun, a hairpin, a sledgehammer, hooligan tool. Come on, man. You should have thought of that already. When you sit down to draft, you need to know the answers to these questions already. New answers are going to arise in real time, and that's okay and that's good. But what you don't want to do is sit down not having a damn clue what happens next, because you have to hunt for it. And if you got 45 minutes, you don't want to spend it going, I wonder what should happen next. Because you don't know, and you won't know. I'm not saying to ignore inspiration. I'm not saying to let the muse talk to you when you're writing. Definitely do that. Matter of fact, I don't think I've ever finished a book on an ending that I wrote in the outline. That's okay. But I come sitting down with some kind of idea what the hell I'm trying to do. That'd be like an architect trying to build a building without a plan. You're getting a weird building. So that's number two. Number three, tell everybody else to shut the hell up for 45 minutes. Don't knock on the door. Don't come in the door. Don't interrupt, no matter what. Because every time they stop you for 2 seconds, you're out for 10 minutes till you get back into that flow. You cannot stop and start. It won't work. You will never get your word count. You'll never be on flow. You'll never really produce in that 45 minutes what you can. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Roger that. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
Anybody else got an opinion?
I guess I want to say, Dawn, I was in your situation a couple years ago, just teaching and not having time. Like I would get home and I would have 10, maybe 15 minutes before, hey, Angie, hi. I would have like 15 minutes. And so on my drive home, I would decide exactly what I wanted to write, set a timer for 15 minutes. And usually I didn't get what I wanted to write down, but I was like, oh, I'll just bullet point what I want to write so I can remember it for last time. But then I was like, well, I could just write it instead of taking the time to bullet point it. So I think if you start for 10 minutes and you have a plan of what you're going to write, you're going to get it done eventually. Just start small, work it up. And you know what? Books get written. It doesn't matter if they're 10,000 words a day or 500 words a day. It slow and steady, man.
I would caveat that. What does caveat mean?
I had no idea.
It means beware. Caveat means beware. Caveat emptor is buyer beware, right? I would say beware stretching a story out too long. I think Stephen King said it. If the characters become stale and that eventually the story starts feeling like they're being FedExed from Siberia, the plot lines are just so far away from you because it's too long. So I would be wary of a 500. I wrote a novel at a 700 word a day pace because I was going to military schools and doing crazy things. And I wrote Charge that way. And I don't know if I'll do it again. I think it's too long, man. I think you got to get it done. And I think maybe, but one thing Bethany just said that's real is if you can practice in a 10-minute space and get amazing at drafting in 10 minutes, you can get amazing at drafting in 30, and you can get amazing and that is a really reasonable amount of time that you could do a practice session of sprinting. I'm a big believer in sprints and time sprints. Yeah. What do you think, Angie? How do you write?
Usually I write for about because I'm a kid. I write for about 30 minutes a day usually.
You're a kid? What?
Okay, big reveal, age reveal. Boom. And usually when I do that, I just sprint. I don't know how to say words. Hold on. Talking is hard. Writing is not as hard because I get to actually think about what I'm going to say beforehand.
I always taught her, don't
I like it.
Speak.
If I thought before I speak, I would be just standing there for 5 seconds.
So, but anyway, I do understand, man, when you got a crunched period of time to write in. But the thing is to never let anything stop you. Obstacles are the things that get in the way of failed people. Obstacles are the things that teach successful people how to jump, get over it, or dig to get under it, or break through it. So obstacles determine who you are. So when we run into obstacles and we bounce off them, we've decided to not win. We decided to lose. So if you see an obstacle, don't say this is in my way. Say this is going to make me, because I'm going to overcome it. And if time is the obstacle, then you kick its ass. Don't say ass.
Don't say that word. Don't say that word.
I just say the other word for buttocks.
Okay. Anybody else got anything to say? We're almost 2 hours here.
I think I just want to close it out by saying this put a lot of us outside of our comfort zone when it comes to writing and publishing. And it made stepping out of that comfort zone a lot better knowing I had 9 other people with me. So that's it. Thanks guys for joining this craziness.
Yeah.
Hey, next one, she's going to write one for it.
Heck yeah.
She actually started one for this one.
Nice.
But life got middle school.
It's tough.
PCS.
What was yours about? It was a town where everybody vanished. The girl woke up and everybody was gone in the whole town.
Yeah.
Ooh, creepy.
Sounds cool.
Sounds very good.
At 11 or 12.
Watch out.
Almost 13.
Okay. Thanks for coming, everybody. I really appreciated this talk. I'm going to get to talk to these awesome people in the green room for a minute after, and you're all unlucky. Honestly, I should do Patreon, and then you get to listen to the green room conversation.
There you go.
That's where it really gets spicy, because y'all don't know, but Dawn and Hannah hate each other. As soon as I click end broadcast, she's like, "You jerk! I hate you!" He throws his hat, he stands up, and starts ripping his posters off the wall. It's happening.
Exactly like that. That's why Victoria's in the middle of us.
That's right. That's right. She's lucky she's there, Hannah. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for coming. And I'm going to say the same thing I say at the end of every one of my videos. And I say at the end of every one of my live streams.
Oh, we're ending. I made it just in time.
You did make it just in time. We're ending on a high note. We're ending on an Angelina note. Okay.
Yes.
Here we go. Angie, what do I say at the end of every video?
I just had a brain fart. Butts and seats, fingers on keyboard. Bye.